start, his eyes fluttering open after an unknown period of unconsciousness. Startled, he sat up in a jolt, finding himself inside a simple cabin. The room contained just a table, 2 stools, a bed, and walls made of rough green bricks. The humble surroundings left Leo bewildered. What happened? I remember passing out. Did someone save me? Leo muttered, trying to rise. But he quickly discovered that his feet were still weak and his limbs lacked strength. Am I being drained by a supernatural creature? Fear crept across Leo's face as he widened his eyes in alarm. Luckily, his clothes were intact and neat, easing his anxiety. Suddenly, the door swung open, and a figure entered the room. Leo looked up and his eyes widened as if they were about to pop out of his head. Before him stood a woman with flowing hair that cascaded like waves, dressed in a white attire. Her skin was as fair as snow, and her beauty rivaled that of a celestial being. If beauty alone could shatter the world, she would effortlessly bring about its destruction. Leo was entranced by her exquisite appearance. He believed he had never laid eyes on a girl so enchanting. If he were to think of Aphrodite, her beautiful face would be the first thing that came to mind. He could swear that she surpassed even the most radiant celebrities from his previous life. Her facial features possessed an irresistible allure and charm, causing the hearts of all who saw her to tremble with uncontrollable awe. She truly is a matchless beauty, Leo marveled inwardly, unable to contain his admiration. You're awake? The woman's voice, like the melodic song of a bird, was music to his ears, washing away all his worries. In the presence of this woman, Leo felt his thoughts become muddled, and his understanding of the situation blurred. Congratulations, you have unlocked the skill Circe Resistance. Circe Resistance at its highest stage had the power to defy all spiritual energies, the narrator proclaimed. Circe Resistance, currently at level 1. Would you like to allocate points to maximize its level? Yes, he whispered, his voice barely audible, still mesmerized by her beauty. Leo's initial enchantment was swiftly replaced by a surge of clarity that washed over his mind. When he turned his gaze back to the girl, he was astounded to realize that her allure no longer held him in its grip. Could it be that this woman possesses some kind of enchantment? Is that why I gained the power of spiritual resistance? Leo wondered. The level of his Circe Resistance had reached its peak. The current level of the skill, Spiritual Resistance, is a 10, Prometheus informed him. You can stop drooling now. It might make her uncomfortable, Prometheus added, injecting a touch of humor. Leo contemplated silently, experiencing a sudden immunity to the girl's captivating beauty. He could see a flicker of surprise in her eyes. He's unaffected by you? An old man materialized behind the girl, startling Leo. Surprise flashed across the old man's face as he witnessed the clarity in Leo's gaze. Leo furrowed his brow and inquired, Where am I? And who are all of you? Detecting a hint of fear in Leo's voice, the girl narrowed her eyes and retorted, This is the Temple of Omens. I am the fox demon who resides here, specializing in absorbing your active energy. As she spoke, a wicked smile curled across her face, and her gaze fixated on Leo's lower body, causing him to tense up. That's enough. Go and prepare some food for this boy. Once he's eaten, send him on his way, the old man commanded, before promptly departing, leaving Leo and the girl locked in a staring contest. Summoning his strength, Leo sat up and expressed his gratitude, saying, Thank you for saving my life, kind lady. Lady? The woman chuckled. You can call me Vixina, she introduced herself. Miss Vixina, my mother always taught me that favors should be repaid in full. Perhaps I could repay it by marrying you? Leo's words were earnest, his gratitude genuine. Though the wording was peculiar, even Vixina couldn't help but find Leo's sincerity endearing. Vixina burst into laughter and exclaimed, You're quite the interesting person. You're the first person in all of Heliosha village who dares to speak to me like this. Heliosha? Leo frowned. He remembered catching sight of a village before losing consciousness, and his mental map contained a tiny symbol representing Hamlet. Yet the symbol was so minuscule that it could easily escape notice. It was practically the tiniest location in all of Icarus City. Heliosia is a secluded, hidden village. You're damn lucky to have wound up here, Vixina said with a smirk, as if insinuating that he hit the jackpot. Not just anyone can come to Heliosia. If I hadn't gone down to the river for a bath, I wouldn't have found you, she added. With her hands on her hips, Vixina smiled, waiting for Leo to show his gratitude. Leo then clutched his chest in pain. Suddenly, his stomach rumbled, echoing like the cavernous depths of a cave. Overwhelmed by a voracious hunger that could rival that of a starving beast, Leo couldn't help but feel a twinge of embarrassment. Vixina chuckled and replied, "Hold on, I'll go fetch you something to eat." Her willingness to extend further hospitality was evident in her words. She left the room and returned in a flash, accompanied by a group of strapping young men carrying plates laden with bread and an array of mouth-watering dishes. These young men kept their gazes fixed on the ground, not daring to meet anyone's eyes, as if searching for lost coins. Delicately placing the food on the table, the servers swiftly made their exit, seemingly wary of Vixina's presence. The fox demon, however, wore a seductive smile on her face. She turned her attention to Leo, casting him a captivating glance, her tongue occasionally grazing her lips, whether deliberately or unintentionally, he couldn't tell. Her rosy, crystal-clear tongue glided over her luscious crimson lips, moistening them. Leo couldn't help but feel his mouth go dry and his tongue parched. The hunger pangs that had tormented him momentarily subsided, entranced by Vixina's alluring charm. Leo swallowed a mouthful of saliva, silently acknowledging the undeniable presence of her extraordinary beauty, a rarity rarely encountered in the world. "Aphrodite, indeed," he whispered. "So you're a mischievous one, too," Vixina chuckled softly, her smile brimming with delight. Leo's hunger overtook him, abandoning all the formalities and table manners he had learned in his previous world. He eagerly snatched a piece of steaming bread and devoured it in large, hearty bites. In between mouthfuls, he muttered vaguely, "Beauty attracts everyone. Who can resist its allure?" Leo's words momentarily stunned Vixina, but she soon burst into laughter and exclaimed, "You're truly fascinating. Much more intriguing than these rigid folks around here." As she spoke, Vixina spat disdainfully, displaying her contempt for the villagers. She swiftly walked out the door and called out while running, "You're too captivating to let you leave us so easily. I need to discuss it with those old men." Vixina vanished like the wind. Leo held the bread in his hand and retorted, "You don't even know if I want to stay, yet you're ready to discuss it with the whole village." However, as he said that, Leo smiled and added, "But with such a beauty by my side, it would be a shame to leave so soon." His smirk quickly vanished as he coughed violently and choked. His careless coughing caused the spoon in his hand to fly out and clatter on the ground. "Congratulations on mastering the skill, Toss," Prometheus's voice echoed in his mind. "Toss, when cultivated to the highest level, can pierce through the body of a warrior from 1,000 meters away. The current level is 1 out. Would you like to allocate more points to raise it to the maximum level?" He looked back at his battles, recalling how he defeated a warrior of a 3rd stage in valor. Once he mastered the toss, he could accurately pierce through the body of someone much stronger. This meant that at the highest level of the toss skill, he could assassinate from a great distance. "Yes," he affirmed. "The toss has been raised to the maximum level. Current skill toss level, 10, Prometheus replied after a brief pause. Leo finished speaking amid his fit of coughing. In an instant, he felt his wrist become incredibly nimble. He picked up the spoon and felt as if they were an extension of his own body. He could control them effortlessly and had the confidence to hit his target with precision. Leo smiled, his lips curling upward. He noticed that the taste of the food in his mouth had become even more delightful. His ears perked up as he caught a sudden commotion erupting outside the village, accompanied by anguished cries too loud to ignore. His brow furrowed, and a sense of concern washed over him. Could it be that the old lady has discovered my presence? He wondered. Without hesitation, Leo stepped out of the door and witnessed a gathering of villagers at the village entrance. "Hey, we've already told all of you that the Ajax sect has sacrificed numerous disciples to protect your villages from demonic beasts and bandits. Yet you offer this paltry offering every month. Do you think the Ajax sect runs a charity?" As soon as Leo arrived at the village entrance, he spotted a young man adorned in resplendent attire, pointing accusingly at an elderly man, scolding him. Standing beside the young man were 4 peers of the same aged, 3 men and 2 women, all dressed in matching garments. At the mention of the Ajax sect by the man, Leo's mind immediately conjured a mental map of Icarus City, and the significance of the Ajax sect became clear to him. It stood as the largest sect in Heliosia village and the surrounding regions. Though it was one of the smaller sects, its power was immense within these mortal villages. Merely being a disciple of the Ajax sect was akin to witnessing an immortal descending into the mortal realm in their eyes. The man standing before them was undeniably the village chief of Heliotia, leaning on Vixina for support, his body trembling ever so slightly. Vixina's face was filled with anger. The village chief took a few steps forward, his voice quivering as he tried to reason with the leader of the Ajax sect. Sir Igor, our village has less than 100 residents. 20% of them are children, and 40% are elderly or weak, with the rest being women. We rely on our meager acres of farmland to sustain the entire village, and we sell the skins of the beasts we hunt to earn some money. Apart from covering the village's expenses, that's all we have left. The village chief's words held undeniable truth. Every month they handed over all the money they saved, along with their food provisions, to the Ajax sect. It constituted their last remaining possessions, yet the Ajax sect still deemed their contribution insufficient. What more could they do? "Old man, do you dare defy me?" the young man barked, glaring at the village chief. In an instant, an overwhelming aura erupted from his body, stirring up a fierce gust of wind that threatened to tear the frail village chief apart. Had it not been for Vixina's support, the village chief would have perished on the spot. Leo's gaze fell upon Vixina. Her face was concealed beneath a veil, hiding her alluring and exquisite features. Only a vague glimpse of her countenance could be noticed, but it did nothing to diminish her enigmatic and captivating allure. The disciple of the Ajax sect sneered at the village chief. "Old man, the Ajax sect has paid a heavy price to protect the villages within a 100-mile radius from the disturbance of demonic beasts. Your establishment, situated near the Flaming Beast Plains, has caused us significant losses. Is it unreasonable for us to collect some protection fees from you?" "That's right, mighty leader of the esteemed Ajax sect," chimed in the village chief, almost crushed under the young man's overwhelming aura. The villagers behind him seethed with anger, eager to rush forward. But the villagers, though afraid, were not about to let their dignity be trampled upon. They may have been simple folk, but they possessed a stubborn spirit that ran deep in their veins. The young man's haughty demands hung in the air, met with a mix of resentment and defiance. The four lackeys behind him sneered, reveling in their perceived superiority. Their expressions reeked of arrogance, as if the world owed them everything. "Hand over more money and provisions, you say?" the young man bellowed, his voice dripping with entitlement. His eyes widened, attempting to strike fear into the heart of the elderly village chief. The village chief, his legs trembling, took a step back. He fought to maintain his composure as he mustered a response, his voice quivering. "Sir Igor, we have given all that our humble village can spare." A contemptuous snarl twisted the brutish man's face, his impatience oozing out like venom. "Senile old fool," he spat, his words laced with disdain. "Maybe you'll meet your maker sooner than expected. It appears these folk need a harsh lesson before they can see reason," the young man declared, his companion's eyes growing cold. A female warrior from their band chimed in, her voice laced with determination. "Captain, if we don't show them our strength, they'll think we're just a bunch of pushovers." Igor's gaze narrowed, a glimmer of icy resolve flickering in his eyes. They had arrived to collect protection fees and amass wealth in secret. They planned to return to their sect and exchange the riches for valuable resources. Assigned to oversee the village of Heliosia, they had hoped to gather even more wealth. Yet, to their dismay, the northern mountain village had little to offer. Their greed went unsatisfied, fueling their resentment and deepening their desperation. They were determined to wring every last possession from the village before departing for their sect. Little did they know, the villagers harbored a fierce determination, a fire within their souls that refused to be extinguished. The stage was set for a clash of wills, a battle between the oppressed and the oppressors, and in the heartland of Aetheria, where the land was as rugged as its people, justice would find its way, no matter the cost. "The audacity you possess, old man, has reached its limits," Igor fumed, his raised hand displaying a palm as sharp as a knife capable of cleaving even metal in half. The sheer power he wielded frightened the old village chief, whose face turned pale with the fear of impending doom. If it weren't for Vixina's assistance, the old village chief would have surely collapsed to the ground. At that critical moment, a gentle breeze brushed past Vixina's side, and suddenly, a figure materialized before them, shielding both Vixina and the old village chief. Those who lack respect for the elderly deserve nothing less than death. The surprise in Vixina's and the old village chief's eyes grew as they beheld Leo standing guard in front of them, gripping Igor's descending hand. "Leo!" Vixina gasped, her eyes widening in disbelief. She had never fathomed that Leo was a warrior who could stand his ground against Igor. Behind Igor, the remaining four individuals widened their eyes in astonishment. How was this possible? He managed to withstand Captain Igor's attack. Igor himself was even more taken aback at this revelation. How could he have imagined that a warrior existed in such a humble mountain village? However, after contemplating the situation, he sneered. Igor nonchalantly flicked his hand, causing Leo to experience a tremendous force repelling his arm. It became evident that Igor possessed considerable power. Leo had already concluded in his mind. "I was curious why your village dared to challenge me with such meager offerings. So you have a worthless low-level warrior aiding you." Igor looked at Leo with a disdainful smile. "But do you honestly believe this flicker of strength will be enough to protect them? Today, unless you surrender a substantial amount of goods, I shall kill this warrior of the first stage one and feed all of you to the Ember Wolves." Igor's words sent shivers down the villagers' spines. Memories of the Ember Wolves relentlessly attacking them resurfaced, leaving them feeling chilled to their cores. The village chief, his knees nearly buckling, pleaded desperately with a haunted gaze. "Please, have mercy, sir. We saved this man today, and he's got no connection to our village. Besides, we haven't got anything else to offer." Igor's stare turned ice cold as he locked eyes with the village chief, his patience wearing thin. Leo's words had gotten under his skin too. How could some ordinary fella dare to ignore his words, he thought to himself. With disgust, he glanced at Leo, a lowly warrior. "Well, if that's the case, let's see if the Ajax sect will protect you." Igor sneered, his patience running dry. "And by the way, I heard rumors about a small beast tide coming from the Ember Plains, heading right for you." Igor stared Leo down, his voice frosty. "You're nothing but a piece of trash. How dare you stick your nose in my business? You picked the wrong day to mess with the wrong person. I reckon Daddy's gotta teach you a lesson." Igor's final remark sent a shiver, striking fear into the hearts of all who bore witness. "Daddy?" Leo roared. The word parent held great weight for him, having grown up an orphan. So, Igor's audacity in claiming to be Leo's father fueled his anger. "That's enough of your empty threats," Leo thundered, causing Igor to tremble under his imposing presence. As he stared into Leo's eyes, filled with murderous intent, Igor stumbled. His fear was magnified in the face of Leo's overwhelming presence. Sheer terror coursed through Igor, forcing him to stagger 3 steps backwards, his legs trembling with weakness. Leo had set out to impress Miss Vixina and win her affection, but Igor's words kindled an inferno of anger within him. "Here we go again. Your romantic nature will get us killed this time," Prometheus chimed in. However, Igor and the others were so terrified by the overpowering presence emanating from Leo that their knees went weak. After all, Leo had deliberately amplified his skill, the war cry, to its peak level. Even a seasoned Archon stage expert would have been knocked out by its sheer force. Yet, Leo had intentionally reined it in, sparing Igor and his crew from losing their wits with just a glance. To call himself a father in Leo's presence was an act that wouldn't go unpunished. Leo wouldn't let Igor off the hook that easily. This kid, how could he possess such power? Igor quivered in the face of Leo's overwhelming presence, akin to the elder in their sect. But upon reflection, Igor realized that the warrior before him was merely at the first level of Vanguard, a pitiful individual whose strength lagged 4 grades below his own. Thus, Igor regained his composure, sporting a cold smile as he disdainfully glared at Leo. "You're nothing but a worthless piece of trash. I said what I said. I'm going to show you who your daddy is. What can you possibly do to me?" Igor extended his hand, preparing to slap Leo across the face. Leo's smile slowly faded, replaced by a glimmer of murderous intent in his eyes. "Leo!" Vixina called out to him, her worry etched across her face. He swiftly turned his head, his aggressive expression melting away into a radiant smile. "Don't fret, Vixina. I'll keep our village safe." His words left the villagers stunned, their hearts swelling with a mix of emotions. Vixina felt it too. In her eyes, Leo had grown into someone dependable, his presence commanding and reassuring. "And just who do you think you are, Leo?" Igor interjected, his voice dripping with disdain, shattering the moment. "You don't stand a chance anymore. Today I'll make you beg for mercy." "Oh," Leo retorted, casting a scornful glance at Igor. freezing the latter in his tracks. Igor, a disciple of the mighty Ajax sect, had already reached the 5th level of the Vanguard stage. Leo, on the other hand, was merely at the 1st level. Igor couldn't fathom how Leo dared to look down upon him. To Igor's dismay, a fire started to burn within him. Rage blazed in his eyes. He couldn't bear being belittled by someone far weaker than him. Igor stared at Leo with a chilling expression and declared, "You know nothing about life and death. You were lucky to survive my strike. Do you honestly think you have the right to be arrogant in my presence?" Igor swore to annihilate the village later, but first, he was going to deal with this insolent fool. Igor wanted to establish his dominance over Leo and make it abundantly clear that, in his eyes, Leo was nothing more than an insignificant obstacle. To Igor, Leo was a speck of dust, easily crushed beneath his fingers. With a sneer that never left his face, Igor's energy surged, signaling his readiness to strike at any moment. He anticipated seeing fear in Leo's eyes as he sensed the overwhelming power emanating from him. But Leo defied Igor's expectations. His face remained impassive, devoid of any fear. Instead, his eyes gleamed with contempt and mockery, refusing to acknowledge Igor as a threat. "Why does a worthless punk like you dare to act so high and mighty? Wipe that smug grin off your face, you brat!" Igor seethed with anger. Flames erupted from his fist, intensifying his attack. With unwavering determination, he launched a ferocious strike at Leo, akin to a meteor hurtling down from the sky. The villagers gasped in shock at the sight of flames engulfing Igor's arm. As ordinary folks, they couldn't fathom a human being able to harness such fiery power without harming themselves. It was like witnessing a divine technique. Igor is truly something else. Fearful gazes fixated on him from the villagers. Even the village chief took a deep breath, acknowledging Igor's unmatched prowess. Amidst the crowd, Vixina, her beautiful eyes concealed beneath her veil, remained fixed on Leo's back, her thoughts hidden from the world. "Little did anyone know," Vixina whispered. "You got this." Her voice carried a charm that could rival a fine glass of wine at a festival celebrating Dionysus. Igor, catching wind of that delightful voice in the small town, had long been captivated by Vixina. His gaze lingered intentionally or unintentionally on her graceful figure, causing his heart to sway. A sneer formed on Igor's lips. "Captain, this girl is something else. How about we have some fun later?" suggested one of his lackeys. "Yeah, why don't the 6 of us enjoy ourselves together?" added the other. Their imaginations ran wild as Igor's henchmen hinted at inappropriate ideas. Causing Igor to laugh in a lewd manner, he mocked Leo. "Once I'm done with you, we'll let her experience a true pleasure." Leo's face darkened, emanating a murderous intent. "Let's see if you'll get the chance." Leo had already made up his mind to eliminate them. These folks were corrupt to the core. The sect they belonged to couldn't be considered righteous or honorable. Today, Leo would wipe out this evil in the name of the people, erasing it from the face of the earth. "How dare you insult me?" Igor glared, saying, "You're asking for death." In an instant, Igor's fist, surrounded by violent flames, flew toward Leo like a meteor plummeting from the sky. The villagers believed that Leo was doomed. They blamed themselves, feeling responsible for his imminent downfall. If they hadn't interfered, Leo wouldn't have provoked the infamous Igor from the Ajax sect, sealing his fate. Igor's minions wore cold smiles, confident in Leo's impending defeat. However, just when everyone believed that Leo was bound for certain death, Leo sneered and said, "You must be trying to amuse me with such a disrespectful and futile attack." Congratulations, you have unlocked the ability Serpent Swiftness. This skill enhances your reflexes and agility to unparalleled levels, allowing you to swiftly evade even the most formidable opponents. Would you like to allocate additional points to maximize this skill? Leo's eyes widened with excitement. He knew this was his chance to turn the tide of the battle in his favor. "Absolutely," he exclaimed. The system responded with a resounding tone, reminiscent of a roaring engine. "Serpent's swiftness has reached its maximum level. Your reflexes and agility have been honed to perfection." With his newfound powers, Leo felt an electrifying surge of confidence coursing through his veins. He could see the shock and disbelief on Igor's face as he realized his attacks were futile against the transformed Leo. The villagers of Heliotia, once filled with fear and despair, now erupted in cheers and applause. Leo's gaze locked with Igor's, determination burning in his eyes. The once ominous captain now appeared vulnerable before the unstoppable force that stood before him. "Your reign of terror ends here, Igor," Leo declared with conviction. Igor's smug grin faded, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. He clenched his fists, summoning the flames once again. But this time, Leo stood unflinching, ready to face the fiery onslaught head-on. As the flames engulfed Igor's fist, they danced harmlessly around Leo's impervious body. The searing pain that once coursed through him was now nothing more than a fleeting memory. Leo smirked, taunting Igor with his newfound invincibility. With lightning speed, Leo launched himself at Igor, striking with a flurry of blows that connected with precision and force. The once formidable captain stumbled backwards, his confidence shattered. The battle raged on, each clash echoing through the village. The residents of Heliosia watched in awe as their hero, Leo, fought with unwavering determination and unwavering resolve. With every dodge, every strike, Leo carved his legend into the fabric of their history. In the end, it was Leo who emerged victorious, standing tall amidst the wreckage and defeated foes. The cheers of the villagers echoed in his ears as he basked in the glory of his triumph. He had proven that with resilience, skill, and a touch of supernatural aid, even the mightiest adversaries could be overcome. And so, the tale of Leo, the indomitable hero with fire in his veins, spread far and wide, inspiring generations to come. His name became synonymous with bravery and resilience, forever etched in the annals of American folklore. Congratulations for mastering the skill Apollo's Vigor. Upon reaching the maximum level, Apollo's Vigor instantaneously heals injuries and regenerates severed limbs. The current level is 1. Would you like to allocate additional points to reach the maximum level? Leo was stunned by the news. This divine skill was beyond anything he could have imagined. The power to regenerate a severed limb meant he could defy death itself. It was a godlike ability that filled him with awe. "Yes, upgrade it to the highest level," he exclaimed without hesitation. Apollo's Vigor has been elevated to the maximum level. The current level of instant recovery is 10. The system notification resonated as warm energy enveloped the burn on Leo's chest. In an instant, the searing pain dissipated, replaced by an overwhelming surge of elation. Leo's expression remained stoic, but inside, he was ecstatic. "Seems like the perfect skill to endure Mexican food," Prometheus quipped, injecting a touch of humor. Leo continued to evade Igor's attacks, frustrating his opponent with each missed strike. The villagers watched in anticipation, hoping Leo could match Igor's strength. But as time passed, they realized Leo relied solely on evasion, lacking the means to counterattack. Anxiety washed over them once again, fearing for Leo's safety. However, Leo gradually wore down Igor's patience, pushing him to the brink of rage. "You coward! You know you can't measure up to me, yet you persist!" Igor bellowed, unable to contain his anger. Leo furrowed his brows upon hearing Igor's words. He no longer wished to dodge his opponent's attacks. "Time for the phalanx to strike back," he muttered with determination. Leo adamantly refused to dodge, much to Igor's amusement. His agility was extraordinary, reminiscent of a slippery loach. Just when Igor thought he had Leo within his grasp, the agile warrior slipped away, evading capture. Igor resorted to indirect flame attacks, gradually diminishing Leo's speed, eagerly anticipating his next strike. Under Igor's provocation, Leo came to a halt. Otherwise, the frustration of swinging his fist through empty air would have been unbearable, tempting him to unleash a torrent of curses. With a malicious smile, Igor declared, "This time, you won't be able to escape. You are Persephone and I am your underworld. Die." Both of Igor's hands ignited with scorching flames, their dance exuding violence and brutality. The impact of his punch could engulf an ordinary person, reducing them to a fiery inferno that would eventually turn to ashes, carried away by the wind. Igor's fiery fist collided forcefully with Leo's body, sending him hurtling through the air as excruciating pain consumed him. In midair, Leo expelled a mouthful of blood, mingled with fragments of his internal organs. The impact of the punch sent Leo teetering on the edge of death. His internal organs screamed in agony, threatening to give way under the brutal assault. But just as all hope seemed lost, Apollo's Vigor sprang into action, activating with swift precision. The invisible energy wrapped around Leo's chest, erasing the pain and reversing the damage. In a matter of moments, his vitality surged back, rejuvenating him completely. Apollo's Vigor. "What a lifesaver," Leo murmured, his voice filled with relief. The sheer potency of the skill left him with no desire to endure any more harm. This skill doesn't make you invincible, Leo. You still need to be careful, Prometheus warned, voicing his concern. I could tell, the pain was unbearable. It felt like the jaws of death closing in, Leo replied, his voice laced with the memory of the agony he had just experienced. Well, maybe this will help, Prometheus offered after a thoughtful pause. Congratulations on mastering the skill. Once you reach the maximum level, it will enhance your endurance against any degree of bodily pain inflicted by warriors below the Archon stage. Pain resistance's current level is 1. Would you like to allocate additional points to raise it to the maximum level? Prometheus informed him. Leo nodded, his determination unwavering. Yes, he exclaimed, his voice brimming with excitement. Leo then gazed at Vixina with gratitude, acknowledging her as his fortunate charm. You truly are my guiding light, my lucky star. Great. I do all the work, and she gets the credit. Prometheus sighed, with a hint of annoyance in his voice. Overwhelmed by the searing pain, Leo succumbed to the ground, his body unable to withstand the torment any longer. As Igor observed the motionless figure on the ground, a sinister grin spread across his face. He burst into laughter, mocking the nameless boy before him. You've wasted my precious time, you unlucky fool, he jeered, reveling in the adoration of his disciples and the onlookers behind him. With an air of cold arrogance, he declared, I can snuff out your life in an instant. Captain Igor is quite the looker. No doubt about it. He's on track to surpass Argos and become a top disciple. That kid underestimated himself. Challenging Captain Igor was a sure path to his demise. Igor's gang cheered for their captain while the villagers gazed at the boy with sympathy, blaming themselves for his tragic fate. We caused harm to that poor child. If we hadn't gotten involved, and if he hadn't stood up for us, he wouldn't have met such a terrible end. He's just a youngster. The villagers lamented and grumbled. Tears streamed down the faces of some villagers, their hearts aching for the boy lying on the ground. They longed to approach and check on him, but fear of Igor's presence held them back, keeping them rooted in place. However, Vixina defied that fear, and raced after Leo the moment he was sent flying, her eyes filled with concern. Yet as she reached Leo's side, Vixina was taken aback. His eyes were wide with excitement, far from the gaze of someone who had been sent flying while coughing up blood. Vixina couldn't make sense of it. She had witnessed Leo spewing blood and fragments of his organs, injuries so severe that they would surely be fatal if left untreated. But here he was, lying there as if the person who had been forcefully expelled earlier wasn't him at all. Was he pretending? Vixina wondered, her mind grappling with the possibilities. How could an ordinary person feign such a condition, especially the expulsion of internal organs? Could he have some sort of healing elixir? Vixina entertained the thought, her suspicions solidifying. Recalling the events leading up to the boy's arrival, Vixina remembered how Leo had collapsed at the village entrance after emerging from the treacherous Ember Beast plains. But what drove him into those plains in the first place? She pondered. He must have stumbled upon something, perhaps an inheritance or a healing elixir. It seemed plausible that he had discovered it during his exploration. Otherwise, why would he dare to confront a warrior who was more powerful than him? Vixina found him intriguing from the moment she laid eyes on him. Who was this boy? Could he be a demigod sent by the divine? Was he a Hercules or a Perseus here to save their village? There was no denying that he was extraordinary. With her hypothesis gaining strength, Vixina grew more confident in her assessment. Approaching Leo's side, Vixina crouched down and asked, "Are you all right?" Leo hadn't anticipated Vixina rushing over right away, all concerned about his safety. Her quick inquiry touched him deep inside, and so he responded with heartfelt gratitude. "I'm perfectly fine, my dear. I'm strong enough to withstand an attack like that." Vixina, sensing Leo's confident tone, felt reassured. She couldn't help but find it amusing, almost wanting to playfully tease him. How could he possibly look like someone who had just taken a beating? While she put on a show of anger, deep down, relief washed over her. Leo, catching a glimpse of Vixina's captivating face, swiftly got back on his feet. He brushed off the dirt from his body with both hands and declared, "That attack was nothing. It couldn't even leave a mark." With a bright smile directed at Vixina, Leo added, "Don't worry. I made a promise to protect Heliosia, and I aim to keep it." After saying those words, Leo started walking slowly toward Igor, locking eyes with Vixina. No one could decipher what was going on in her mind. As Leo approached him, Igor clenched his teeth, utterly astonished by the turn of events. He was completely dumbfounded. Wasn't this kid just sent flying a moment ago? How is he suddenly standing tall? He asked himself. Igor's eyes filled with disbelief. He was sure his punch had landed on Leo's body, well aware of the devastating power behind it. Even if it hit a bull, its internal organs would be pulverized. Yet Leo had taken the blow, coughing up a bit of blood, and now dared to come closer. Not only that, Leo's confident voice had reached the ears of everyone present. He boldly proclaimed that Igor's attack was weak and couldn't even break his skin. Igor couldn't bear this humiliation. He was a disciple of the renowned Ajax sect, training under the guidance of a revered master. His immense strength was widely acknowledged, placing him among the top 10 disciples who were considered extraordinary prodigies. That's precisely why he'd been entrusted with the task of gathering resources from various villages. Igor's eyes grew cold. He couldn't comprehend how Leo had survived his attack, but it had undoubtedly dealt a significant blow to his pride. Especially if his master were to find out, the consequences would be unimaginable. Igor's master enjoyed an impeccable reputation. If word got out, his master's prestige would be tarnished, subjecting him to ridicule from other elders. Igor might even face expulsion from the sect due to his master's furious reaction. The consequences of such an outcome would sever his access to those precious skill points he so desperately craved. Igor, filled with fierce determination, was hell-bent on evading such a fate. In a split second, his eyes transformed into a fiery crimson, while the flames swirling around his arms intensified, growing more volatile with each passing moment. A surge of overwhelming momentum coursed through him, elevating the tension to dramatic heights. "By the blessings of Hera, the captain has unleashed his ultimate move, the explosive fist," exclaimed one of Igor's lackeys, astonishment lacing his voice. That skill could obliterate stone tablets. If that punch were to connect with an ordinary person, their entire body would likely be reduced to ashes in an explosive burst, cried another minion. Who would have thought he'd unleashed the explosive fist against a mere novice? "The captain must be burning with anger," remarked the second minion, his voice tinged with surprise. At that moment, all eyes in the village fixated on Igor's imposing figure, their legs trembling in trepidation. An air of concern gripped the spectators as they pondered whether Leo could survive the imminent assault from Igor. "Leo, consider this your ticket to meet the ferryman in the underworld," proclaimed Igor, his momentum reaching its zenith, growing fiercer with each passing second. And then, with a surge of raw power, he launched a devastating punch toward Leo. A faint smile appeared on Leo's lips as confidence surged within him. He deliberately chose not to evade the attack, relying on his skills to withstand the impact. In an instant, Igor's flaming fist collided with Leo's chest, the force of the blow reverberating through the air. To everyone's astonishment, Leo's expression remained unflinching, devoid of any hint of pain or distress. His composed and serene demeanor left the onlookers dumbfounded. This young man's face remains impassive even in the face of the divine might wielded by the captain of the Ajax sect. "He is truly an extraordinary individual," whispered the villagers in awe. Yet, as they murmured these words, they instinctively shut their eyes, unable to witness the potentially gruesome sight of Leo being pummeled to death by Igor. One among them, however, Vixina, steadfastly kept her gaze fixed upon Leo with her beautiful eyes. And in that pivotal moment, as Igor's fist made contact with Leo's chest, Vixina's eyes widened in shock. A muffled sound reverberated through the air, and the villagers could almost imagine the sight of Leo unleashing a frenzy of blood, his body propelled like a crimson arrow, hurtling away. The villagers' hearts pounded violently in their chests. How on earth is he still breathing? They wondered aloud, their confusion palpable. Reluctant to open their eyes, they were startled by a cry of sheer disbelief that resonated around them. With trepidation, they cautiously unveiled their sight, only to witness the incredible sight of Igor's fist striking Leo's chest. Leo, however, wore a cold smile on his face as he gazed down at Igor, who stood a few centimeters shorter. His eyes brimmed with ridicule. "How are you still alive?" Igor muttered in disbelief. This had been Igor's most lethal technique, the infamous explosive fist. It had earned him a renowned reputation in the sect. Yet when unleashed upon Leo, it seemed to have had no effect at all. as if Leo had never been attacked. He witnessed firsthand how Leo didn't even flinch when struck by the forceful explosive fist. However, Leo's clothes billowed in the air, emitting a resounding sound that showcased the power of his infamous attack. Leo looked him in the eye and let out a chuckle. "That is where you're wrong, Igor. You're trying to throw stones at the sun, hoping it would hit." Leo gazed at the stunned Igor, a mischievous smile playing on his lips. "Your attack is like an itch to me," he added to further mock his opponent. "If such is the case, then can he land his barbecue fists on my back? It feels itchy. It does seem strange that I do not have a back. I don't even have a body." Prometheus laughed. Leo took a deep breath and declared, "Now, it's my turn to strike." Almost instantly, an immense momentum began surging from his body, rising to an unprecedented level. A force so powerful that it seemed capable of shattering the heavens and extinguishing the earth. Everyone from the village could feel the overwhelming intensity emanating from Leo. It was a daunting and destructive force that left them in awe. "Gods be merciful," prayed one of the villagers. "Looks like the wrath of the gods," exclaimed another. As Igor sensed the immense momentum emanating from Leo, his legs quivered uncontrollably. A sense of powerlessness and insignificance crept into his heart, eroding his courage to meet his adversary's gaze. Leo locked eyes with Igor and slowly raised his palm to his chest. At that moment, the palm seemed to transform into a colossal hand that spanned the sky. It created an illusion in the hearts of onlookers as if this palm could rend the clouds, move mountains, and overturn seas. The villagers stood dumbfounded, unable to fathom how the previously vulnerable Leo, whom they had feared would succumb to Igor's assault, now possessed such immense and terrifying power. Finally, Igor reacted. He fully realized the horrifying extent of Leo's strength. In his eyes, Leo's immense momentum was on par with his teacher. Let's go, Igor exclaimed, swiftly turning around and fleeing with the utmost speed he could muster. Before departing, he shouted at his wasteful henchmen. Following their captain's command, the four of them finally snapped out of their daze. Almost simultaneously, they activated their agility techniques and sprinted away with all their might. The villagers regarded Leo with profound respect, yet Leo had no intention of letting the five of them escape. He fixed his gaze on their retreating figures, a cold smile gracing his lips as his eyes sparkled with determination. Skill, far sight. Leo's vision encompassed a vast range of 1,000 meters. It was as if Igor and the others were standing right in front of him, their actions crystal clear. He looked at them like an eagle that fixes its eyes on its prey from the sky as the talons wait for the right opportunity to strike. In an instant, Leo's immense momentum reached its zenith. With a swift motion, he thrust his palm in the direction where the five fugitives had fled. The villagers felt an invisible and formidable force emanating from Leo's palm, seemingly chasing after Igor and his companions in their escape. Despite running at their utmost speed and covering nearly 1,000 meters, Igor stood his ground, wearing a smug grin as he burst into laughter. Thinking he could laugh in the face of death and live to tell the tale, he let out a roaring laugh. "No matter how strong you are, you can't kill me." Igor stared in the direction of Heliosia village, his face contorted with hatred. He declared, "I won't let you peasants get off the hook so easily. Wait till I report your insolence to our master when we return to the sect. I'll tell him that the foolish people of Heliosia village refused to surrender their resources and even dared to resist. When the time comes, I'll ask him to flay you and remove your bones and tendons. Yes, Captain Igor, let's go back and summon our teacher. He will not tolerate this insult," one of the henchmen said. Leo observed Igor and his companions engaged in an animated conversation. Their cold smiles and focused gaze in his direction hinted at a sinister discussion. Instantly, a sneer crossed Leo's face, aware that they were plotting something unpleasant. "Congratulations on acquiring the clairaudience skill. Once raised to the maximum level, the ability will allow you to hear all sounds within a 1,000-mile radius, including insects and mosquitoes. The current level of clairaudience is 1. Would you like to allocate additional points to reach the maximum level?" Leo smirked and gave his approval. In an instant, all the sounds of the world flooded Leo's ears. The villagers' heartbeats, the roaring of demonic beasts in flaming beast plains, the rustling of leaves and the buzzing of cicadas amplified 1,000-fold, a gnawing well up within him. However, the cacophony quickly faded. leaving only the distinct voices of Igor and his accomplices audible in his ears. With Master's temperament, he will never let the village rest after doing what they did to us. Teacher might annihilate the entire village to prevent our humiliation from spreading and tarnishing his reputation. Guessed one of the minions. Igor responded, very likely. I'm in the mood for hunting, what say? Those fools won't know what hit them, Prometheus quipped. Together? Leo asked. Yes, Prometheus replied. Nimbus strike, Leo roared. Suddenly he felt an unsettling sensation coursing through his body. In an instant, the voices of the 5 conspirators abruptly ceased. He could only watch helplessly as they were reduced to pulp by the force of the Nimbus strike. A colossal palm print imprinted on the ground marked the spot where they once stood. Leo received a system notification. You took down a warrior, a 4th-ranked vanguard, and earned yourself 4 experience points. Even the lowest level of the fighters was at the 3rd level of the vanguard stage. With Igor in the mix, Leo gained a total of 19 experience points. Prometheus kept on with their notifications saying, you got 34 experiences now. Congrats, you leveled up 2 levels. You're currently at the 3rd level of the vanguard stage. Leo felt a surge in his body like he was getting stronger. Warm energy flowed through him, filling up his gut. It made him feel really good and confident. Is this what it feels like to break through? Leo clenched his fists, feeling the newfound power in his hands. It was clear as day that he had become mightier. Maybe Vixina wasn't my lucky star, but Igor. Even though he can't hear me no more, I'm truly grateful, Leo said. You're calling everyone your lucky star except for me, Prometheus sighed. Leo was already surprised by all the notifications, but he didn't see the next one coming. Congrats on unlocking Pandora's box. Want to open it now? A Pandora's box? Leo was blown away. He always thought there wasn't such a thing, but now, out of the blue, he had the box in his possession. Why'd I get this box now, at this stage? He wondered. Prometheus is unpredictable, a real pain in the ass sometimes, Leo thought to himself. All of a sudden, a message echoed in his mind. Warning, you better not be questioning your mentor. If you don't listen, the system's going to wipe you out. As that icy notification echoed in Leo's mind, his soul shivered with a never-ending coldness. Sweat trickled down his forehead in an instant. Leo never imagined Prometheus had a deadly program. He wondered how he could become the strongest warrior in the world, reaching the pinnacle of his power. If Prometheus was like a double-edged sword dangling over him, tied to a thin thread like the sword of Damocles. Would you like to open Pandora's box right away? The system chimed once more. Leo couldn't afford to be careless this time and responded firmly, no. After all, that box was called Pandora's box for a reason. Hero! Suddenly a loud cry echoed through the air. Leo turned his head towards the sound and saw the group of villagers led by the elder village chief. The old man had woken up from his coma, full of life and a red face, but the respect he had for Leo was deep. In a daze, Leo watched as the elder village chief kneeled before him. All the villagers followed suit, showing their gratitude. We thank you, our hero, for protecting our simple village, the elder village. Chief spoke with reverence while bowing to Leo. The villagers all kneeled, some praying to the gods. It's all thanks to you, our hero, our champion. Our village would have been swallowed by chaos if it weren't for you taking down those bandits, the elder village chief said as he kneeled before Leo. Leo was completely overwhelmed by the crowd of people bowing down to him. Flustered by all the praise, Leo quickly used his rush skill to dodge their grand gesture. When they looked up, they realized Leo had already disappeared. Confused, they turned their heads and found Leo standing right next to them. Hey everyone, please stop. Leo waved his hand repeatedly and pleaded, every single one of you here is older and wiser than me. If it weren't for all of you, I might have been done for when that demonic beast attacked. You saved me first, and I, Leo, am determined to repay every one of you. So please, don't treat me with so much respect. Leo put in a lot of effort to convince the villagers. When he saw the last villager standing up straight, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Hey, great hero, when are you planning to leave? The elder village chief looked at Leo with tired eyes and asked in a shaky voice, you also saved our village, our home. Are you planning to leave us so soon? Surprised by the question, Leo noticed the chief's trembling gaze. His eyes flickered a bit, and the muscles on his face seemed tense. Using his skills, Leo could sense what the chief was thinking. Telepathically, he asked, "Are you afraid that I'll leave?" Leo glanced at the old man and blushed, feeling his cheeks grow warm despite his already dark complexion. It seemed like he had hit the mark dead on. The old village chief wanted to convey that he had heard about the impending threat of the beast tide mentioned by Igor. It became clear that their village must have angered the Ajax sect with what happened. The sect wouldn't protect them anymore, and there was a real possibility of Claudius coming back, the only survivor who escaped Leo's Nimbus strike. It was possible that he would bring reinforcements and attack the village. Meanwhile, Heliotia was made up of regular folks. How could they possibly stand a chance against a group of warriors? So the old village chief wanted to keep Leo in their midst, recognizing his ability to protect the village. But that was only one side of the story. The old village chief meant that when the Ajax sect arrives to punish him, he would shift all the blame onto Leo and accuse him of starting a rebellion against the sect. This would change the sect's stance, and the old man was fully prepared to frame Leo if necessary. Leo had already seen through the chief's act. The old man was as cunning as Hermes, the trickster, with his eyes darting around, filled with deceitful schemes. Leo remembered how the old man pretended to be unconscious right after Igor's attack. But he unexpectedly woke up and joined the crowd as they charged towards their savior. The chief was full of energy, despite trembling slightly. It was clear that he was far from being on death's doorstep. Leo inwardly mocked the village chief after realizing his sneaky nature. However, Leo maintained a smile on his face, refusing to show his anger in front of the old man, as they could still have a friendly relationship. Plus, there was a woman in Heliotia, Vixina, whom Leo couldn't bear to leave behind. Just the thought of her was enough to stir Leo's heart. With a determined look on his face, Leo spoke with conviction. "Don't you worry, old village chief. I'll protect this here village till the bitter end. As long as I'm around, nobody is going to harm the folks living here." He activated his leadership skill for the first time, having recently acquired it by slaying those warriors from the sect. The villagers' faces lit up with respect and devotion, like they had found their guardian angel to watch over their beloved home. But the village chief, he stayed as calm as a cucumber. "Seems like there are still some folks immune to your skill." Leo squinted his eyes. A strange sense of fear washed over him in the presence of this seemingly frail man. Must be the effect of his passive perception skill. An eerie premonition took hold of Leo. Just then, Vixina came up and grabbed hold of Leo's hand. She had returned to her usual vivacious self, captivating the villagers who couldn't help but smile in awe. They held a special place in their hearts for Vixina. Her beauty was beyond words, leaving them in utter amazement. I don't need no poet to write a song about her beauty, Leo thought to himself. All right, folks, let's give our hero a break. He's wearied from fighting the bandits. Can we let him rest a bit? Vixina interrupted. Without waiting for an answer, she gently pulled Leo's hand and swiftly made their way out. Leo glanced back at the old man one last time before leaving. The village chief smirked slyly. Leo had no idea what the old man was plotting, but he knew it couldn't be good. Vixina then escorted Leo back to the temple, firmly closing the door behind them and sealing them off from the outside world. Leo immediately grasped Vixina's purpose as he surveyed their surroundings. He instinctively adjusted the ragged cloth serving as his makeshift belt. As Leo examined his worn-out attire, he couldn't help but realize that he looked like a beggar. Despite his destitute appearance, he hoped his heroic charisma overshadowed his shabby clothes. Without a moment's hesitation, Leo swiftly discarded his tattered garments and teasingly remarked, "Looks like my dashing looks have won you over, and my gallant performance in battle must have stolen your heart. I understand why you're in such a hurry to indulge in romantic endeavors with me. Today, I willingly offer myself as a sacrifice to fulfill your desires," he said, with a mischievous grin. Little did Leo know, a slender hand had already snatched a leather shoe and forcefully flung it toward the back of his head. Vixina's voice reverberated through the room as she labeled him a pervert, shameless, and a lecher. With each accusation, she hurled a shoe at Leo, leaving him slightly bewildered. "Quit hitting me? I was just kidding." Leo, although possessing a high pain tolerance, pretended to be in agony, allowing Vixina to vent her anger. Observing Leo's apparent suffering, Vixina tossed aside the cloth shoes and hastily exited the room, her face flushed with embarrassment. It seems that even the most straightforward person can be shy at times. Leo watched Vixina's departing figure, a smile gracing his face. Only after Vixina had completely disappeared did Leo regain his composure. He carefully closed the door and settled onto the bed. "Prometheus, it's time to unlock Pandora's box," he exclaimed. "I hope it won't turn out as disastrous as when naive Pandora first succumbed to curiosity," Prometheus replied. Leo felt a twinge of annoyance at the system's repetitive interjections. After all, he'd already opened the box, albeit partially. Nonetheless, he eagerly anticipated its contents. In an instant, an overwhelming sense of joy washed over Leo. The items within the box were truly remarkable. Each one proved to be a priceless treasure. "Looks like Christmas came early," he exclaimed, his eyes wide with awe as he surveyed the contents of the box. "Guess you've been on Santa's nice list because look at all this loot," Prometheus quipped with a chuckle. "Hermes' talisman, allowing instant relocation within a 2-mile radius with a 5-minute cooldown. That's freaking cool," he cheered with excitement. "But wait, there's more," Prometheus interjected. "Hestia's Inferno, a warrior technique of the primordial level. The Hydra Rebirth Sword technique, another primordial level warrior skill that can summon 9 swords of unparalleled strength, capable of taking down Archon warriors. The Pyro Dragon Sword, a treasure forged from the bone of a fire dragon, also primordial level. It can slice through iron like butter, and has a divine flame that can corrode anything, and it gets stronger with every kill." "Damn, so many badass offensive skills," he exclaimed, his enthusiasm overflowing. "But I'm not done yet," Prometheus replied with a smirk. "And now a sword. You've got yourself a cool sword," he cheered again, feeling the thrill of holding such a powerful weapon. "Weight cuts sharper than blades, though." "Your sword seems a bit dull for now," Prometheus chastised with a hint of teasing. "And lastly, 3 Panacea pills. These babies can advance your warrior stage by 1, but remember, you can only take a maximum of 3, Prometheus explained, the weight of their significance evident in his tone. "That was a mouthful," Prometheus sighed, acknowledging the overwhelming nature of the gifts. "I've never received so many gifts at once, not even on my birthday," Leo exclaimed, his joy palpable. "Too bad there's no cake," Prometheus joked, lightening the mood with a playful remark. Leo felt an exhilarating surge of happiness as if the world lay at his feet. The contents of the box were simply extraordinary, a collection of extraordinary items that surpassed his wildest dreams. It's worth noting that in this world, leveling methods, warrior skills, and treasures are categorized as Hero, Primordial, Titan, and Olympian. Hero grade is the lowest, while Olympian is the highest. Usually warriors can only access hero grade techniques if they're lucky. Primordial techniques are usually restricted to prominent sex, Prometheus explained. "So Igor's Fire Fist technique was just a hero grade technique, huh?" he asked, seeking confirmation. "Absolutely," Prometheus confirmed. "If a small sect had a primordial technique, it would probably be their most prized treasure," Prometheus added, shedding light on the significance of Leo's newfound powers. Leo's warrior techniques, skills, and life treasure all belong to the prestigious primordial grade. With these gifts, he held the potential to wield control over the entire world, a thought that filled him with a sweet sigh of satisfaction. In this world, pills were classified into 12 grades, each more potent than the last. The mortal pills marked the lowest grade, growing in strength as you climbed higher. The 10th tier holy pills were 10 times more powerful than mortal pills. Among them was the divine healing elixir, renowned for its incredible curative properties, capable of saving lives on the brink of death. And then there was the 11th class pill, the divine pill, with the ability to bring the dead back to life. It was the pinnacle of medicinal miracles, a feat that seemed almost godlike. The possibilities seemed limitless for Leo. With his newfound arsenal and access to such potent pills, he felt invincible, ready to conquer any challenge that came his way.